So it's been more than a week of this war between Iran and Israel. Donald Trump has set a 2-week deadline for decision that he has to make, whether he will also jump in this war with Israel. But the war has also led to a lot of speculation because the Israelis, remember, have been talking a lot about regime change in Tehran. So what does history tell us about regime change in the Middle East that has been done by the United States in the past? Our next report gets you more details.
On the 17th of June, Israel's defense minister warned Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei of a fate similar to the late Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. Katz made these remarks during a meeting with Israeli military and security service commanders. Katz's comments come amid escalating tensions between Israel and Iran. The two West Asian countries have launched strikes and counter-strikes against each other. On the 19th of June, an Iranian missile struck the Soroka Medical Center in southern Israel, causing grave injuries and damage. Iran said it had targeted a military site close to the Soroka hospital, not the facility itself. The attack came just hours after Israel launched strikes on Iran's Arak heavy water nuclear reactor. Escalating a week-long conflict that began with Israel's surprise air campaign, targeting Iran's military infrastructure, senior commanders, and nuclear experts. Meanwhile, the White House said U.S. President Donald Trump will decide whether or not the U.S. gets directly involved in the Iran-Israel conflict within the next 2 weeks. However, French President Emmanuel Macron underlined his differences with U.S. President Donald Trump over Iran. Macron opposed military action targeting Iran that could lead to regime change and plunge Iran and the region into chaos. Macron made these remarks at the G7 summit in Canada.
Does anyone think that what was done in Iraq in 2003 was a good idea? Does anyone think that what was done in Libya the next decade was a good idea? No. I'm also thinking of our friends in the region, in Iraq, Lebanon, and elsewhere.
So, what regime change is Macron referring to? Is Israel calling for regime change in Iran? And is the US supporting that? European leaders have long been haunted by the aftermath of the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003 and the NATO-led intervention in Libya in 2011. They resulted in the removal of Saddam Hussein in Iraq and Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Let's go back and understand what happened in those two incidents. Saddam Hussein was the president of Iraq from 1979 to 2003. During his time in power, he ruled the country with an iron fist. His government was accused of silencing dissent and carrying out mass killings. Several kinds of sanctions were imposed on Iraq for violence against its people. The country was also accused of developing nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons by the United States.
The dictator has a long history of seeking biological and chemical and nuclear weapons.
In March 2003, the U.S. launched a full-scale invasion of Iraq in a bid to topple Saddam Hussein and eliminate what it claimed were weapons of mass destruction. Washington also accused the Iraqi leader of having ties to the terrorist group Al-Qaeda. In July 2003, U.S. forces tracked down and killed Saddam's sons, but Saddam himself remained on the run. That manhunt came to an end on December 13, 2003, when U.S. troops found Saddam hiding in a small underground bunker near his hometown of Tikrit in Iraq. Hussein was sentenced to death and hanged in December 2006. In early 2011, in Libya, an uprising against the four-decade rule of Muammar Gaddafi led to civil war and international military intervention. Libya's conflict looked more like a conventional war than a series of protests. After demonstrators were met with live ammunition from Gaddafi's forces, rebels armed themselves and took control of Benghazi, a city in Libya. Rebels used the eastern city as a base to launch attacks on Gaddafi's strongholds in the rest of the country. The National Transitional Council, or NTC, the umbrella group for rebel fighters led by defectors from Gaddafi's government, gained recognition in Western and Arab capitals. In March 2011, NATO, along with its Qatari partners, began bombing Libya. By early September that year, Tripoli, the capital of Libya, fell to rebel forces, but Gaddafi remained in hiding. In October 2011, NTC forces found him hiding in a tunnel, following a NATO airstrike on his convoy. He was killed by rebel fighters in his hometown, Sirte, from where it all began. And with that, 42 years of Gaddafi's rule came to a close. In 2011, Hillary Clinton, then Secretary of State, faced criticism for making comments about the death of Gaddafi. She used a phrase on live television. She said, "We came, we saw, he died."
Unconfirmed.
In the West, opponents of Iran's current rulers have often outlined their disapproval of the religious conservatism of the Islamic Republic. The West's track record of regime change in the country long predates the 1979 revolution, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. In 1953, before the Islamic Revolution in Iran, the CIA and British spy agency MI6 orchestrated the overthrow of Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. On August 19, 1953, Mossadegh was removed from power. The Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who had briefly fled Iran, returned and consolidated power with U.S. backing. In January 1979, facing extreme opposition, the Shah fled Iran. The monarchy collapsed. The Islamic Republic of Iran was born. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini returned from exile to lead the Islamic Revolution. Khomeini passed away in 1989. Ali Khamenei succeeded him. Khomeini became Iran's second and current supreme leader, holding the chair since 1989. Fast forward to today, as tensions escalate in the Israel-Iran conflict, calls for regime change in Iran have intensified. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has clarified that the change or collapse of the Iranian regime is not a goal, but it could be an outcome. The bigger question is, will the United States intervene and topple the Iranian regime as it once did in 1953?
Ayatollah Khamenei tweeted almost every day, "Death to Israel."
Whom should we surrender to? Iran is not a nation to surrender.
You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.